I feel so, like I said last time, this is a good place if you were gonna like cast an evil spell with your, like, from here. How are you guys doing? Good. Yeah. There was a line outside. I was impressed. I was like, hey, there's a line. I was trying to shove food into my face really fast. I'm gonna be honest. The Chinese buffet is not Chinese. I think they lied about that.
Yes.
There's nothing Chinese about it. They're like, they put baby corn in something and they're like, it's Chinese! Sorry. I was like, this food is awful! If we call it Chinese, I think it's gonna taste delicious and be like wonderful. Sorry, we're talking about food. I am Brittney Karbowski. I do anime. Yay! And I used to work for Vision Films before they passed on. I now work for Sentai Filmworks and Seraphim Digital Media and Ogretron 5000 and Funimation Entertainment, doing anime. And I've been doing it I'm now going on 10 years. Woo! Yeah. I'm older than you think. Like, how does a 17-year-old get to do anime? I'm like, I'm 27. Anyway, I really like to do these panels, question and answer, because you guys have a lot of questions and I have answers, and if not, then I'll just talk about random stuff like pizza, like last panel, if you guys had been in it. Anytime that someone didn't have a question, I would tell you what kind of pizza I wanted to eat.
Pepperoni.
So, yeah. But anyway, yeah, so you guys provide Q, I'll provide A. And yes, there's a question in the back already, and I'm all for it.
Okay, three-part question.
Yeah, ooh, three-parter.
Okay, first, do you read fan fiction?
Oh no.
I've never read fan fiction. I'm addicted to comics.
Oh, that invalidates the other two questions then.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
actually, maybe not the third one. Because this could apply to comics. Here, when you're reading a comic, say about a character you've done voice work for, do you read it in the voice you do the character for?
Huh. No, I don't think okay, so when I say I read comics, I mean that I read like either some very, very old comics that have no anime to do with them. I've never actually seen an anime comic. That sounds fun. Or I read like Sunny Street. I'm addicted to Sunny Street, which is something you probably get in the newspaper. But they're really wrong. They're really wrong. Like it'll be like two fish tanks next to each other, and there's two fish in one fish tank and then one fish in the other, and then the one fish like has a package all of a sudden, and the two fish are like, "Happy birthday, Bubbles!" And Bubbles is like, "Oh man, you guys are great!" And as he opens it, it's a super sponge and it soaks up all the water and he dies. Like those are like the comics that I'm talking about. They're wrong, but they're really funny to me. You guys are great. Okay. But yeah, I guess if I saw something that was an anime character, I might actually think of the voice. But most likely because I wouldn't actually probably hear myself as much as I would hear the Japanese voice, because that's what I'm watching before I record it. So that's what I'm seeing, and then I'm just putting it to life in English. So I think more likely I would hear the Japanese voice, I just wouldn't know what they were saying. You know what I mean? I'd be like, well, in translation it was this, but I don't really know what that is because they probably translate to something completely different. Cause that's a lot of times what happens in anime, you know, they're like, oh, it's not exactly the same as what the Japanese wrote, but we have to fit it into flaps that are already made. And, you know, like, for example, I like to tell a story about when I did Pride and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And when he was just, when he was just Salim Bradley, we were watching it, and there was a flap at the end of this big, long speech that he's doing when he's telling, you know, the story about his dad and how much he loves his dad. And there's, at the very end of that speech, there's one big flap, and it's supposed to be, that is the end of my story. And it was, blah. Or like, obviously you can't go, that is the end of my story. You know, that wouldn't work. So you're gonna have to come up with something that works. But so you have to, it's kind of a creation process in and of itself in that, and that you're trying to get the closest to the translation as humanly possible, but also fitting flaps that are already there, and the English language is different than the Japanese language. So that is one of the challenges. But what was funny was the way we fixed that was that because it was all kind of connected like this, and then it would go Dan like that at the very end. So we're like, and that's why I love my dad, the end, like as fast as we could so we could fit it. And we just kind of read it like, I don't know if you guys know how like a little kid when he does a book report, or he or she does a book report, and they're like, I love dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are awesome, the end. They go sit down really fast. Like that's what we did when we did it. We could not stop laughing because we were like, and that's why I love my dad, the end. That's so good at the end. But yeah, so we are limited by flaps because of that. We're limited. That's why sometimes we do have to change a translation because there's just nothing we can do, and we want you guys to not go, wait a second, they just said a full sentence like this. Not at the end of my sentence. So for quality purposes, we want you guys to enjoy it too. So, when a lot of times people will be like, but it's not exactly like the Japanese, it's like, it's not possible to do that. And not only that, sometimes we have to transfer not just the words and translate the words, we have to translate the culture to people in America that don't know about the culture. Because not everyone who watches anime knows 100% about Japanese culture. And so, those translations are for people who don't necessarily know about the culture but still enjoy anime. So that's what the dubs are for. So, when people say, oh, well, it's not exactly like they did it, I'm like, hey, turn the disc over and watch the other side. And then, I don't care, as long as you buy it, I don't care what you do with it. So, watch both. Check them out, it'd be good. Yes?
Yeah, you remember when the scene of the Puncture? You did that with Chris Evans with the, what kind of power you use it for that when the drug scene? You remember the?
What kind of powder were we using?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is a movie, an actual movie that I did, a feature film, and it's called Puncture. I think you get it on Netflix for a while, but it might be off now.
Yeah, I got it.
But yeah, and I did the film with Chris Evans. This is what he's talking about. There was and I was a drug-addicted assistant of his. He was a lawyer, and he was like a drug addict and a playboy, but he did like this really wonderful thing. And it's actually based in Houston, based on a true story on a true person. And it was about, he was fighting for a company that invented needles in hospitals that would collapse into themselves after they were used. It was called retractable needles. So, safety point, retractable needles, so that hospital workers wouldn't get pricked and infected with HIV and hepatitis and all that stuff. And they had to fight because the government owned have all these illegal little things, figured out a way to monopolize what hospitals could buy. So hospitals had no choice, even if they wanted to save, their workers from getting HIV from, an addict that came in that had HIV and was freaking out, and the needle accidentally poked the nurse. And then the nurse has HIV. So, but this lawyer in Houston fought up until he died of a drug overdose for this. And it was his story. So I played his drug-addicted young assistant, one of those where every time I showed up, people were like that. And that's what he's talking about. And we were snorting powder, but it wasn't obviously real stuff. It was some kind of baby laxative. It burned really bad. It was horrible. Horrible. Yeah, the things we do for movies. But yeah, that's what it was. It was something like that. It was some kind of... It was funny, though, because we were driving around, and I was like, if this was real, people would be really mad. I'm wasting it everywhere. Went driving around, spilling it. Whoops.
There's something here on the nose.
Yeah, yeah. It looked right? But yeah. Anyway, that's what he was talking about.
All right, thank you.
So, to explain, yeah. Oh, 3 questions now. I'm going to go this side, and then I'll go on this side, and then I'll go on this side. Cool? Okay, so the one in the back, and then you.
Okay. This is a question you've probably heard a lot, but if you're interested in getting into voice acting, where should you start?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's what a lot of people will say. It's a big question that I've gotten. In my opinion, the operative word in voice acting is acting. And most of the people who are voice actors didn't go into voice acting just to be a voice actor. They went to be an actor in general. Almost all of them were in theater before. That's where I started. And I mean, I only know of, like, the only ones that I can think of that weren't actually in theater before would be Michael Tatum, but he was a composer. So which is kind of different, but he was still in the artistic world and all that stuff. I think that's it.
Aaron Dismuke?
Aaron Dismuke? What did he?
He played Alphonse in the first full
But he was an
comic.
actor still. He just wasn't a theater actor.
Okay, well they
Yeah,
hired
he had an agent, and that's how he got hired.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he was an actor. So the thing is that voice acting is just another outlet to do something you love, which is acting. And you can voice act not just in anime. You can voice act in radio commercials, in regular commercials, in regular cartoons, prelay cartoons. You can do it anywhere. But the best step or thing that you should do is practice your acting skills first. That's what matters. Because you can, imitate someone's voice all day, but when you get in there, you're not doing that person or that character. You're doing your own character. And you have to have the tools in your toolbox to pull them out at a moment's notice. They're going to be like, beep, beep, beep. Okay, you're crying. Cry. Right now, cry. It has to sound realistic, So you can't just be like, So, but you have to have the tools in your toolbox. If you're an actor, that's just something you can just turn on and off, right? So you have to know how to cry. You have to know how to scream. You have to know how to portray emotion just through your voice without moving. And I think that theater is a really good place to do that, because though theater is way more like forward and crazy and off the wall, it's a good outlet for anime because a lot of the characters are like that. A lot of the ones that I play are like just insane. You're just like, wow, like Himeko, you're crazy. But it was a good outlet for that. And then also, if you already have all those tools in your toolbox, then you can dial it back and play the more realistic characters and the more, like when I'm in canon and I play Ayu, I can bring it back and do that. Or when I'm Icarus in Heaven's Lost Property, I can dial it back, but it's because I have those tools in the toolbox. So I would say, and you don't need to pay to do theater, you don't need to pay to do lessons. It's not that they won't help, but I would say before starting in your wallet and spending all your money, just go and see if you like acting in general. Go do theater, and you have to see how much work it really is, because it's a very rewarding job, but you still are working quite a bit. It isn't just like, oh, I'd love that. All you have to do is just go in and then talk a little bit and then you leave. I mean, it is a very taxing, very tough job. It's very hard, and you have to be able to accept rejection, which is something else that you would learn in theater. So no matter how bad you wanted the role, someone else was better for it, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with someone criticizing you and telling you, hey, I think you should do this different. And you have to be able to take that advice and use that advice and go back out, Or if someone says you're horrible, be like, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm awesome. Keep going. Because people are going to do that. That's going to happen. If you can't accept that and you don't have a hard enough shell, this isn't the job for you. Actors audition. I probably audition for, I'd say, like 30 animes before I book one. And if I cried every time I didn't get one, or I was like, oh, that role was perfect for me, then I would be a very unhappy person. But, so it's one of those things. You got to learn to be able to accept that, all that. So once you are ready, you're really ready for being molded into the actor you want to be. Because you are not already that actor. No one is. And an actor is always learning. It's a learning process. I still, to this day, I've been doing this for 10 years, I'm still learning things, learning how to do new voices and putting new tools in my toolbox. My job is never done. Like David says, your reel is never done. You're always getting new characters, so you're always adding to your reel, and so you're always, like I didn't do Black Star until I'd been voice acting for 6 years. So and I'd never done a boy character before ever. But if I had just stopped at that 6 years and been like, no, I can't do boys and I'm not going to audition for that, then I would have been out a character that's amazing. So it's just, it's learning. It's just a learning process. And not just learning by watching anime and what other people do, which is a good way to do it. But just like I said, acting in general. When I do film, one of the things that my film coach, Deke Anderson, who is a wonderful film coach, just taught me everything I know. He's amazing. That he taught me is that watch your favorite sitcom and turn the volume off. Just watch the actors. Just watch your voices, or just watch how they shape vowels, how they portray emotion through their eyes, through their face. Because it's not just from the sound in their voice, So that's how it's one of the ways to learn to film act. Well, one of the ways to learn to voice act is just to close your eyes and not watch the animation and just listen to the voice. In that same way. Like, how are they portraying that they're upset or that they're frustrated? And then, after you do that and, go to community theater and do some theater for free and just figure out, that, hey, it's a lot of work, but it's rewarding to me and I want to do it. And then go from there. Eventually, when you are prepared, then put yourself on an open call list. It does happen. People do get jobs from that. Soul and Soul Eater got his job from an open call list at Funimation. He had to wait a couple years. I had to wait 2 years to get on that list. So, and I was already acting. I was already like an actor at ADV and so I had to wait years to get on that list. But you can get on it, and you can get the job. And if you work hard enough, and you really do put it in the work, like Micah did, as you can tell, because he's really good, you can get the job. It's not like it's not open for you. It's just that I think a lot of people, they just see this side of it, and they don't necessarily understand how much hard work actually goes into it. And when it comes down to doing the work, you're like, well, you gotta do that. You gotta go to theater. You gotta act. You gotta create a demo. They're like, whoa, I don't want to do all that. I just want to go in and do a voice. Or they say, oh, I can do Bart Simpson really well, and it's like, but Bart Simpson was cast a long time ago. You need to be able to do you. And that's another thing. If you do get your audition, go in and don't do a character voice. Don't be Gollum. Don't be Bart Simpson. Don't be your favorite character in Black Butler. Be you. That's what they want to hear. That's what you have to offer that's different than anyone else is you. So go in, do your regular voice, and then if you can try to do it, they'll say, okay, can you do that a little younger? And then it's just a matter of pitch, or maybe changing your vowel sounds. So I don't speak totally different when I do a younger character. I raise my soft palate and make it a little bit more nasally.
So when I'm doing a younger character, I just raise it a little bit, and then I close off my soft palate and make it a little bit more narrow in the back. So it sounds a little bit cuter. Right? And then, but it's the same voice. It's not, I'm not really like changing, like I'm not like, oh, I'm a kid, yeah! Like, no, it's not, that's not what I'm doing, So it's just a pitch thing. And then if I try to sound older, which I never really do because I usually don't there's a reason I don't get older parts because I don't sound older, I sound like a kid. But if I did, like, probably a lower character would be Yuri from Angel Beats. I try to make it a little bit more husky and, welcome to the not yet dead battlefront. And but it's the same voice. I'm just changing the way that I create my vowel and the pitch. Just little tricks. And then as you voice act, and that's the thing, you don't need to worry about, oh, well, I don't know how to do this or I don't know how to do that in the booth. I don't know where to stand. They'll teach you that. If you have the acting chops down, they can teach you that stuff. You can go in green and they will tell you what to do. So that's not what you need to worry about because I went in green. First time I went in to record for Stephen Foster for Gilgamesh, I did the words and then like 26 times, and he needed to go out and have a cigarette. Because he was like, this is awful. I was like, I'm so sorry, I'm trying really hard, I don't know what's going on. But he would say things like, okay, gray. Like darker but gray. And I just didn't get it, at the time. He would say things like milk it but skim milk. Like milk it but 2%. And I'm like, what? And they'd be like, chocolate milk, man. Chocolate, thick chocolate milk. But he was an amazing director. And once you got the hang of it, man, he was just awesome to work. So it was amazing. Just very talented. But, but at first I was like, oh my God, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm really confused. And he's like, I should go out for a cigarette. This is awful. Like, you were horrible. You need to go get a different job. Which actually, I was like, maybe I should. I'm really bad. But you learn those things in the booth. There's things that I've gathered along the way. Like if I want to sound stressed out, and you can't really move around a lot to sound stressed out. But when someone is stressed out, what do you do when you're stressed out? You tense your entire body up, right? When you're stressed, you don't even know you're doing it, but you're just like kind of pissed and you just tense your whole body up, right? Well, the way to portray that through the voice would be to create tension in your body. So I push my hands together, and then I have this tension, and I just sound like really pissed off, right? So that's a good way to create that. And then you can learn little tricks like that in the booth as you go along, but they'll teach you them. But so it's a kind of, it's a long answer, it's a long-winded answer, and everybody has their own process to get there. But I would say that the training is the most important part of it. And just make sure you want to do it before you do it. And also, with anime in specific, you do need to live in the area. And that would be Houston, Dallas. They do very small amounts in New York and California. But really, the main big places are Houston and Dallas. Unless you want to do video games, which is huge in California.
But if you don't live there for the anime, they're not going to let you send it in. Because they need you at a moment's notice to quickly get this contract out. And you need to be close by. I mean, they don't even, normally, unless they have enough hours, they're not going to hire someone from, Houston to Dallas or Dallas to Houston, because that's a 5.5 hour drive. They're going to be like, it needs to be worth your gas and your time to come out, But they need you there in person to do an anime. But that doesn't mean that you can't do radio commercials from Florida. Actually, David, who joined us back there, I have to point him out, he has some... he has some really good suggestions on places. There's websites that you can go to that I was hearing in his that I'm going to steal from him. That you can go to that you can actually get auditions for radio commercials and things like that, and that's a place to start. So, but yeah, so it's not hopeless, and you'd be surprised. Sometimes you can get a commercial that will pay forever. And then you can do anime or whatever the heck you want to do. You can move to Houston. You can look at the Geico lady, or not Geico, Progressive. Yeah, Flo. She makes millions of dollars off of a commercial. And there's other actors that, in my world, in the film world, and the, film and commercial industry that are like, oh, well, commercials, I'm not going to waste my time on those. And I'm like, I'm going to try to be Flo. Because that would be awesome. So radio commercials too. You can get a gig and it'll just go on forever. And it'll be worth it, and then it'll pay your funds, and then you can follow your dreams wherever they go. But one thing that is important is don't let anybody shut you down. You have to have a tough skin. If you want to do it, do it. So you believe in yourself, because no one else is going to believe in you for you. Yeah. But yeah. So sorry, I went on for a really long time about that one. But so I said I was going to get you in the pink cute hair, and then I was going to go back to you, and then I'll get you. Cool? Yes, he was very difficult and taxing. He's painful, which is, for a long time I had to, when I was actually still recording him and going to conventions, they were like, you can't do Black Star at conventions, because I would come back and I didn't have a voice, and they were like, your job's more important than doing voices at conventions and panels. And, because when I first would go in, so when I go in to record in Dallas, I live in Houston. I live in Richmond. It's 5.5 hours from Dallas. So I would usually book like a 7-hour day, 8-hour day, but with a lunch break. And so I would get up at the crack of dawn, and I would drive to Dallas, and then I would work from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m., and I would drive home for a voice. Well, I tried to do that with Black Star, because he's my first boy character ever. I didn't realize that would be impossible. And I drove up there, and I recorded for 2 hours, and I could taste blood, and it sounded like air. It was like... It was like that. So I learned my lesson really quick. But yes, he was very taxing, and that's the thing though. You got to consider is that that's not coming from a natural place. I don't normally talk like that, and it's he's screaming all the time, and I'm putting a natural rasp on my voice, and also just speaking from a place that's not natural, because I don't speak in a low voice like all the time like that, But yeah, it is very taxing on the voice. And I definitely probably lowered my voice about an octave doing that character, but it was totally worth it. It was super worth it and very fun. But yeah. So, you had one, right?
Do you video game?
Do I video game? I do old school video games. I'm not very good at the new ones because I can't, it's like I can't rub my stomach and pat my head. Because then I end up like patting my stomach and rubbing my head. Because I can't figure it out. And like when I try to play like, Halo back in the day, I would just end up in a corner looking at my feet shooting nothing until I died. And I get really mad because I'd be like, gosh, I can't do this. And, my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, would like turn me around, and so I'd start walking and then I'd just get shot. And I'm like, man, this sucks. So I like Bomberman and like, Mario Brothers and really old school games. Those are the ones that I can play.
Did you play the Nintendo 64?
No, not really. Even that was probably a little too much for me. I'm like a Super Nintendo kind of gal. And I still had a Super Nintendo. I still have a Super Nintendo. But my dog had an accident on it.
Oh.
Yeah.
They
The worst part is that my brother came to my apartment when I didn't know he was gonna do this. He was just staying at my apartment for a weekend when I was out of town to help me out, and he cleaned it. I was like, you don't know what was on that, but he got it to work again. But I was like, I don't think I should tell him what happened to it
What type
because
of dog was it?
he cleaned it. A pit bull. She's a pit bull
Okay,
mix.
keep the dog.
Go ahead. Oh no, I wouldn't get rid of a dog for destroying something. It's like getting rid of a
was a Yorkie.
child because the child drew on your wall.
If it was a Yorkie,
I would never do that.
just get rid of it.
No, dogs are family. That's to me. That's what I
If
think.
they're above knee height, it's good.
What?
If they're above knee height when full grown, they're good.
I have a Chihuahua too, and I love her. She's awesome. Yeah, she's not vicious. She's nice. If you raise them right, they don't act like little crabs. Anyway, it was you who had a question next, right? I'm trying to have good memory, and then I'll get you next. Cool.
This one's almost kind of a three-parter, although I forgot the third one. So, and I think she already answered my question as to probably what was the most taxing voice you've ever done. I don't think there's any other one other than more than Black Star, I would assume. And you were talking about how voice actors have to be in the area to voice act. What about?
Well, not voice actors, just anime voice actors.
Well, anime voice actors.
Voice actors can be anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
I noticed in last few episodes of One Piece that, what was his name? Porcus the Ace was voiced by Travis Willingham, which I believe, I think he lives in California, right? Along with Laura Bailey.
Well, the thing is that voice acting is also done in California, though. So they have equipment and stuff to where they can record it themselves and send it down. Or because they were existing parts in probably another anime, which is probably why they had come down for that. So he might have needed to finish something up on Full Metal Alchemist. And so they said, hey, come on down and we'll also put you in One Piece so, it can be worth your plane ticket you had to pay for. And that kind of thing. But if you do notice, there isn't a ton of that. It's very limited, and it's probably because they were finishing a pre-existing show before they moved.
Okay, and I just remember my second question. When you do a show, say a 12-episode series, do you do it all in one day, or do you just do like half of it one day, half of the other? How's the process?
It depends on how many hours and how many lines. So the way that you would book, so like B got a HK, of course not, because she talks the entire time. Yamada is just blah, 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 blah the whole time, which is awesome. I love that show. But yeah, so in that show, no. But in, say, trying to think of another show that would be a lot. It depends on how much your character talks. Your character can be a main character and not the one that talks the most. For example, in Railgun, Kuroko talks just as much as Makoto Misaka, or more, because she's the comedic character, and so she's always, blah, 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 blah. But it just depends on how many hours you book. And the hours are based on a line count and a reaction count. And then how fast you record. So, so it would be like, for example, and it would be like 35 lines and 25 reactions per hour, and they're gonna book you like that. But then some people who are a little bit more seasoned, they'll book for a little less hours, still pay you for the rest of the hours, but they know you're not gonna take that long. But that's what's expected when you go in. That's why with the voice acting question, that's one of those things. You have to be able to record 35 lines and 25 reactions in 1 hour. And that's with them asking you to redo it 3 times per line. And so if you don't have the chops, then you poop all over that audition and you can't come back, right? So it's important to put the work in before you go, but do it. You can. But I'll tell you what, man, Micah worked hard before he went in for his audition, and they were like, wow, this guy's good. Hey, we can do something with this, and he's working regularly, and so it is possible, but that's another one of those things. But yeah, so you 35 lines an hour, 25 reactions an hour, or something like that, and then when I go in to record for like Fairy Tale Wendy, for example, they know that I'm just gonna probably record that pretty quick, because it's just Sky Dragon roar all the time, and so mostly what it is, and I'm sorry, so. Because she says, I'm sorry all the time, we laugh. We're like, Wendy's saying sorry again. Because that's what she does. But yeah, so that, that's it's about 35 lines, 25 reactions an hour. But then some characters, depending on how seasoned you are, they'll be like, you're supposed to come in for 7 hours, I'm going to bring you in for 6. But so, depending on what the character is, how big your character is, and how many lines your character has. So, or if you have multiple shows. Because sometimes I'm doing, Fairy Tale at the same time as something else, or maybe 3 shows, and so I can come up for a week, or, depends on just the work. But, okay, I had yes, you up here, and I'll get you back there, because you were next with the ears, and then I'll get you in front. Cool.
2 questions. First one, could you do Black Stars Yahoo?
I will, but maybe a little later, because, like I said, that one's a little taxing, and I'll do it once, but that's it, because it hurts. But I will.
You got water in hand, you can't.
What?
I'm just saying you have the water in hand at least, so.
Oh, yeah, but I'm talking a lot. You'd be surprised. Voice actors talk a lot more than regular people. You don't, when you're talking for 7 hours in a day, that's a lot more than a normal person talks. That's probably like, 10 times the amount that a normal person talks. Oh, okay, well, so I need to be quick now. Okay, so ears?
Is there a type of character that you haven't played yet that you want to play, or voice act for?
I'd like one day to be the tough girl, but I have played her in some places. Cal Devins in Phantom turns into a tough girl eventually. But I never really get to play but it's one of those things where I know that I'm limited in that because my voice doesn't go that low. I'm never gonna be, that sexy. I'm never gonna be that. So that's okay though. I'm good with that. It's just a realization that's you know what? That's okay because I can play a lot of little kids and teenage bratty girls. So yeah, and I got you in front of her.
Okay. Speaking of the Raildex series, Index Railgun, has anyone talked about you doing either the movie or the second season of either series?
Of Index or Railgun?
Yeah.
It's a secret.
Maybe not.
But I will say that it is likely that if Japan did the second one,
They actually did.
that they did, yeah,
They did.
that it would be likely that Funimation would get the license. And then if they did, it would be kind of likely that I might do that character. But it's a secret.
Non-disclosure agreement.
Yes?
What's it like voicing Yamada, who's oh, I want to have sex with a lot of guys?
What's funny is that, people are like, oh, that's really risque, and I'm like, have you seen Freezing? Because I was Ingrid. Because I've done worse animes. But there's something endearing about her, because though she has that horrible mind of being horribly perverted and all that, she is really immature, and that never happens. It's not you could see the first episode, and you're like, I'm not going to watch this because this is horrible content, but it's not. It never goes there. And it's really just a coming-of-age story and what she thinks guys want and what guys really want. And so it's kind of sweet. It's really funny because she's thinking something horribly perverted in her mind, but Kosada's like, can I hold her hand? But I think she's hilarious. I enjoyed thoroughly playing that character. It's just great. They're like, you don't have any modesty. She's like, I have modesty. Look, I'm blushing. She's horrible. But gosh, I enjoyed playing her. I had to take pictures of some of the lines that she said. Leah and Jamie did an amazing job on the writing because she's an American girl. They don't say it straight up that she's an American girl, but she's a foreign exchange student. She is white with blonde hair and blue eyes. She's an American girl. And because they think that she wants to have sex with 100 guys, so obviously that's what they think. We think we're all Paris Hilton here. I'm sorry, but it's true. It is true. They think we have no morals and we're all really dirty and horrible, which is not the case. But it's true. It's a common misconception, I guess, over there to here. Anyway, but so she's supposed to be an American. So it's really, in my opinion. So it's really cool because when Jamie and Leah wrote it, she sounds like an American teenage girl. I think it transforms it in a way that the Japanese couldn't ever accomplish in that way. In this particular anime, I think that the dub is probably better, just because she says things like "totes my goats" and friends with bennies for the win, and she's just hilarious. And the humor goes along perfect with her story. But there was times I had to take pictures and send it to my husband, and I'm like, I got paid to say this. Isn't that awful? Wow. But I had a great time.
Prostitution.
Great time. What?
That's like voice prostitution.
Oh, not really. I don't think that's the same at all. I'm not letting anyone do anything to me. And yes, like I said, people have asked and stuff, and I've done much more severely H things. So, anyway, yes.
What are you looking forward to most in the upcoming Gary dubs?
I don't think I could give it away without giving any spoilers, but there is a certain costume that Wendy wears that I think is hilarious. is and adorable. And I think it's just those episodes that go along with that costume are the best. Like, period. They're great. Oh, okay.
Question I haven't heard
Oh.
in either panels. Are you planning or possibly in the future looking at doing another feature film?
Yeah, I definitely. When I get them, I actually did it was about a year ago, but it actually came out not that long ago. Was the Starving Games, which was by the people who did the Hunger Games. Not the Hunger Games, sorry. It's a Hunger Games spoof movie by the people who did Scary Movie. But anyway, so it's called, yes, I'm in it. It's called The Starving Games. And I'm going to spoil it for you because I die in the first 5 seconds. But it's really funny. And if you even if you hate the movie, at least go watch the first 5 seconds of it. Or just get on my Facebook and see the clip. So Can't Miss instead of Cat Miss tries to get the backpack when she jumps off the podium. And we fight for it. I show up and I'm all crazy and I fight for it and I look like I just have crazy face the whole time. People are like, was that you? Because I'm like, rah, the whole time. And she's like, give me the backpack. I'm like, no, this is my backpack. I'm being all crazy. And then I get stabbed in the back, twice. And she's like, you're really not gonna give up the backpack? I'm like, no, it's my backpack. And then I get stabbed in the neck and I'm still not giving up the backpack. And then I get sawed in half with a weed eater. And she throws the backpack on, but I'm still holding on in the back right? And then so she throws me off, and I'm like, that was my backpack! And that's my whole part. It's awesome.
Just a flesh wound.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good. It is Monty Python-esque.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was pretty funny. You in the back, you haven't asked a question. After or before? After. Well, before I do vocal warm-ups, which would just be, I used to sing a long time ago. I'm not good at it anymore, okay? No, it's no good. It's, horrible. But you shouldn't be that disappointed. Why would you want to hear someone sing awful? No, I'm just kidding. Oh, shake, can you shake? No, so I would do, vocal warm-ups, which are just mommy made me mash my M&Ms, mommy made me mash my that kind of thing, or, one black beetle, blood, only black blood stuff, or putika, that kind of stuff before, and then afterwards is really just vocal rest, because you don't want to use your voice that much afterwards.
Do you drink honey tea or anything like that?
Tons of water, but tea actually is, it will dehydrate you. And so it'll do the opposite effect to your cords as you want. It's really great when you have a cold or something like that, but when it actually comes to vocal cords, anything like coffee or tea, which I know this is horrible, is really bad because your cords get dried out. And when they get dried out, they get damaged, they don't operate correctly. So what you think about it is when you voice act and you do some sort of damage to your cords, it's like if you rubbed your hands together, that's how your cords are supposed to operate. And if you put a Skittle in there, that's how they're operating. So when they don't touch all the way, that's when you hear the airiness and the raspiness in the voice. So my voice is raspy because I have damage on my cords. That's how that goes. That's how that works. So if you hear someone that sounds like, they've been smoking for 20 years, that's not necessarily the case. They might just have screamed and created nodules on their cords, and they don't rub together perfect anymore. So where they don't rub together, it creates air in that pitch. So that's what, when you hear a raspy voice, that's what that is. So a lot of times you've used your voice so much for 7 hours and you have just operated the crap out of it that you just want to vocal rest in water. And when people talk to you, just that's what I do. I'm like, or write it down. Or and I have this like little thing for my vocal like doctor, because I go to check out my cords every few years, and which costs an arm and a leg, by the way. There's a little button and it says I want to speak when my doctor says I can't. I'm just like. So, but yeah, that's what I do afterwards, because it's tough. But before you like to warm up, it's not good to just go in there. That is why like smoking cigarettes would be absolutely awful for your voice. And it's that there's a reason why hot smoke will create damage on the cords. You're not supposed to eat chocolate. You're not supposed to eat mayonnaise. You're not supposed to eat anything that would coat the vocal cords, because if you screamed and you damaged them, it would hurt. You would hurt, but you wouldn't feel it, and you would keep damaging them. So like that's why they'll tell you like, hey, avoid anything that coats the vocal cords. You don't want to drink a sonic slush and then go into record. You really want to stick to water. If you have to do tea, do decaffeinated. And then after, I still drink coffee, but if I drink like 1 cup of coffee, I drink like 4 cups of water. And that way I'm not hydrated, but I'm evenly where I was before. Just to create less damage. Unless you want to sound raspy and stuff. Some characters, you want to sound kind of, gruff and stuff. Like for Black Star, I probably could just drink coffee the whole time. It'd be perfect. but yeah. So I know you had your hand up here.
Yeah. I was wondering, do you think any kind of music training would be helpful in voice acting? I do a lot of music stuff.
Yeah, most definitely. I know that I used a lot of it, and that's when I talk about like the difference between a girl's voice or a boy's voice. One of the main differences that I found using musical terms would be women speak legato, which is smooth and connected, and men speak staccato, which is short and separated, or boys especially. Some men do speak smoothly, but when you're portraying a little boy and what you think it should sound like in a cartoon, you're going to chop up your voice and do it short and separated. But another thing that would not necessarily be a music term would be the emphasis that you put on what word in a sentence. So a girl would say, I'm going to go to the store, and they usually would emphasize in a sentence like the subject. And a boy would emphasize the action word, so I'm going to go to the store. And so that's like, that would be a difference that if you were trying to do a boy or girl voice or change that up, that would be one of those things that you would apply. But I definitely do think musical terms, because, or just that it could help you, because it teaches you to control your voice. And that's your main instrument in this. And though you're not singing, you do have to be able to control it into a certain way so that you don't do severe damage to your cords. But if you are a singer, I would not suggest being a voice actor because it will damage your gift severely. I lost like a good chunk of my range. Yeah. So, and I have nodules all over my cords. So I will say, and they looked really good before. I used to do musical theater, and you can see things from 6 years ago, and you're like, wow, those cords look completely different than they do now. Because it is damaging to talk for 7 hours at a time and scream and cry and laugh really loudly and no, over here, and do fight sounds and get stabbed to death. It really does. If you think about it, it does matter. There was another thing I just thought of off the top of my head though too. That's another thing that applies to voice acting. Is that learning how to make foley sounds, because that only is in anime. There isn't, it's in anime and it's in other animation. But, normally you don't make a sound every time you look somewhere. You're not like, and nobody does that in real life. Nobody does that, right? But in anime, you're doing that. You make a sound, you're just like, did she really just make a sound for everything? You pick something, nobody really does that stuff. But in anime, you do. And I had to learn that. It's one of the main things that I had to learn at the beginning was, how to do Foley. So Matt Greenfield told me, okay, well, have someone rearrange your furniture in your house, in your little apartment, in one of your rooms. Do this with care with somebody watching you and softly, okay, guys, because you can get hurt. But, and close your eyes or blindfold yourself. And then as you softly run into things, be ridiculous about the sound you make. Like crazy ridiculous. So I would bump into a table and I'd be like, ah! So that was how I practiced my Foley and learned how to do Foley. Is a really good tool, really good trick. But yes, okay, well you guys have all answered a question, so I can get all three of you now.
Okay, this has to do with just anime voice acting, because this is unique to them, or translating into a Spanish or something. Japanese has variations on gender in their language. Like a boy would use certain words or end certain words a certain way, where a girl would use it completely different. How well do you think you and the writing staff translate that into the dub?
Well, see, translating isn't a voice actor's job. It is completely translated into a script by the time you get it. Unless it's certain scripts that we worked on in Sentai that we were working directly off translation, but it's still a translation. So it's not recognizing the gender differences. I think that that's all fleshed out before we get it. We get a script that's completely written, and then you go in, and it goes beep, 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 and you read this to those flaps. And that's it. You get to do the line twice, and then you go on. and they don't tell you what's going on in the story. They don't tell you, you know, they might be like, okay, so this is going on and someone's crying and you're upset. Go. It's fast. Like I said, you have to do 35 lines, 25 reactions in an hour. So it's not, you know, some people will be like, oh, but you had all this time to check out the story and, you know, you got to research it. And I'm like, no, I got a picture. And that's how I got a picture and then a line, and I just guessed what it might sound like. And that was it. That's what we get. But so no, we don't get that. That's the writer's job, would be to do that. So they flush all that stuff out, but probably even the translator's job. Translator will probably do that before the writer. I'm not quite sure. But by the time it gets to us, it's a script, and we just edit it if we have to match the flaps.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Japanese language. Never claimed to. That's why if I mispronounce a name, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to say it in the first place. Somebody told me how to. I asked the director. I come to a name and I go, what is that? And they go, you know, whatever the name is, Chizuru. Oh, okay, Chizuru, and that's what I do. So, you know, if they told me to do it differently, I would do it wrong. So don't get mad at the actor. Don't ever get mad at the actor if you don't like the way that a name is pronounced. No, you know, not to point fingers, but that would be the director pointing fingers. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yes.
So on the Starving Age, where you did get solid hat, how do you do the special effects for it to look like you're like really solid hat? Because I know not literally.
Well, you know, it's people did scary movies, so it doesn't look really real. That's the point.
Yeah.
And it's like I think they actually used a mannequin half that like falls over, just to make it funny. But I don't get to see that cool stuff. You know, all I got to do was go out and, you know, actually film the thing and fall over, and you know, then they edit stuff in later. But it's pretty funny. At least those few seconds are fun. It was fun to be crazy. I don't even look like myself. I'm like, like the whole time. I have nuts face on. Yes.
Two questions. First off, which notable anime character that you auditioned for and got rejected, which one did you want the most?
You know, this is a tough question because you always want work, but the voice actor community is a bunch of friends. We all know each other. We're all close. We hang out at cons. There's never a part where I'm like, I would have been better than that person for it. And a part of being an actor is knowing that you weren't right for the part. When you don't get a job, you weren't supposed to be that person. And you have to recognize that. You can never be like, well, it would have been better if this person was in it, or, well, my favorite voice actor so-and-so would have been better in this role, because there's a reason that they're not that role. They auditioned for it, but they didn't sound like the director thought they should, you know? And a lot of times it's also that you have to be able to get two main characters to talk together to sound good together. So, you know, there's a lot of times that people disagree with the casting decisions, but there's a reason. And in the end, that's what the Japanese wanted that. They approved the cast. You know, and that's something a lot of people don't realize. It isn't just all up to the Americans just decide, well, we want our buddies in it, and, you know, I'm going to put my friend this, and no, it's decided by the Japanese. They listen to it, and if they like it, they approve it. There's times that I've been recasted in shows. Not recasted, it's recast, sorry. There's times that I've been recast in shows that I was a main character in that show, and then I became a minuscule character in it because the Japanese didn't like it. And it's not up to me. But that's knowing being an actor is not, you don't ever feel like that about it, because eventually you're going to get a job that is for you. And if anything, when someone else gets it and I really wanted it, I'm just like, hey man, good for you, good job. And then I listen to them and I'm like, oh, I didn't sound like that. I didn't sound like that at all. I can't be someone else. So they were the ones who deserved the role. But you can't, if you have that way of thinking, you're not going to do very well in the world, in the acting world. Because it is competitive, but it isn't competitive like that. You have to be happy that someone else got the role because it was better for them. You know, in theater too, that's something that you'll learn if you go to theater and you train in that, because that's one of those things. You can audition, you could be like, I would have been the best Cinderella, but then you see Cinderella and she was better than you for the part. Right? I'm an ugly stepsister.
Right.
You know, and I'm okay with that. So it's just it's a learning experience, but.
Right. Also, second question: if you were offered, not audition, you were offered a role that was as taxing or even more so than Black Star, would you take it?
Of course. Yeah, like I say, it was worth it. It was worth it. He's fun. I had a great time doing him. You know, but he was just taxing, and he was really tough to do, and he was painful, and you know but he was worth it, 100%.
You're just not wanting to deny a role. They just offer you on a silver plate, like, hey, can you just do this?
I've been offered roles. I haven't necessarily auditioned for every role. Sometimes they're just like, hey, you know, we need someone to fill in this role and you'd be perfect for it. And so, but that's because I've been working there for 10 years. So they do know a certain amount of things that I can do. But there was, most of the time I do audition. And a lot of them, like, you know, it sucks because I have to send them in from Houston to Dallas, or I have to send them in from, you know what I mean, in different places to get them in. And if they can't work with you to adjust, it's tough for them to cast you because they don't know if you're going to do what they want in the booth. You know, they can't just guess that. So, but yeah, it's one of those things. Yes? I'm missing anybody, am I? Sorry.
Have you ever done the two characters in the same show before?
Atlas. Yeah. I've never done two characters that talk to each other, though. Yeah, not. And I've done two characters in the same show. In one piece, I'm Apis and Mary. But the boat. The boat talks. But yeah, I don't think I've ever been two characters that talk to each other. Some people can do that. They just have that, like, amazing talent, like, you know, Monica Rial or Lucy Christian. They can be a super high-pitched voice and a super low voice that, you know, sometimes I listen to them and I'm so impressed with their talent because I don't even know it's them. And I've known them since I was, like, 18, you know, or, like, 17 years old. I've known Monica since I was 15. And I can be surprised by her. And I'll be like, in Michiko and Hatchet, I'm like, that was her? Oh, my God. And I'm just like, girl, good job. Jeez. Like, you know, but you know, so sometimes people can impress you. But so they could do a character where they could talk to themselves and nobody would know. I'm one of those voices that I think, since I have kind of a nasal quality to it, it's pretty recognizable. Most people know it's Brittney when you hear it. You know, I've done little, you know, for certain shows, I've done just like their commercials for advertising the shows. Even if they're not going to do them a dub, they'll do like the little commercial on Anime Network in English, you know. And people call me and they're just like, that was you, wasn't it? I'm like, dang it. Yes, it was me. But I think I have one of those recognizable voices that it'd be tough to do that with. But some people just, they have that talent. They could just put it anywhere and they can do that. But yeah. So where are we? Sorry.
Got one more question.
Oh, I can do one more question. Anybody got a good one? A burning desire. Oh, yes.
Well, you've got 10 years of experience under your belt. Is there anything looking back on your career that you think is
There's a lot of times, you know, that I would have liked to take more time on certain shows that they had to rush to get out for whatever reason. The Japanese, you know, needed it right this second. And there are, you know, some experiences. There's some shows where we've had to go in and we recorded the entire show so fast I didn't even get to remember it or take, you know. People ask me about the character, and I'm like, you know, I wish I remembered something, but I don't, because I took 3 hours to do the whole thing. You know, and so it's like, it was 3 hours of my life 6 years ago. I have no idea. But, so sometimes it's really just that I wanted to take more time on the show. There's sometimes that they've been in such a hurry. I've been like, no, I need to redo that. Like, I didn't even say the character's name right. And they're like, no, just do it. It's cool. And I'm like, no, it's not. I didn't say, whatever. You know, because you don't get a choice in that. So there are times like that, but you know, just like how it is that you can't be, you know, sad and regretful that you didn't get a character that you didn't want, you also, you know, no looking back. If you're, you know, just to be positive and live your life in a positive light, you can't look back on the things that you regret as much as you just look forward into what you're going to create next, in my opinion. Because, you know, I could go back and just regret all day. You know, but instead, you know, and I could have done this better and I could have done that better. But instead, I'm just happy with what was created, and I look forward to creating better, bigger, bolder things in the future. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you guys. What a wonderful panel. Thank you so much. I'm going to do autographs if you guys want one. Yes. But not here, right? Over there? Where is it?
It's going to be, the autographs will be actually in the guest signing, which is just over by the registration room. We will be over there in about, say, 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, 5-10 minutes. Oh,
That
yes.
way we can
Oh, I'm good, thank you. I appreciate it. I had caffeinated coffee, so I can't have any chocolate right now. Womp womp.
Is this still recording?
do an autograph?